Hi guys, welcome back. On this week's show we're going to hot coat this longboard, or let's say finally hot coat this longboard. So let me prep my studio and let's get right down to it. So I got my studio ready because it is a bit of a messy job. Now what I'm going to do is prep the board. I'm going to seal off the fin plug, and around the rail I'm going to give it a drip edge. So my first step is to create a drip edge. Literally what I'm doing, I'm taking a piece of tape, putting it onto the side of the board, then we're going to turn the board around again. So if there is resin coming over, it can actually just drip off the tape and not run into the center of the board. Once it runs into the center of the board, it's just a big mess. You then have to start sanding, and because this is painted already, I can't actually afford to have anything go wrong on the surface or on the freshly painted board. Well, it's not that freshly painted actually, it's been painted for a couple of months already. All right, so what you would actually want to do when you place your tape, you would try to keep it in the center of the rail. So don't put it over here or too far down. Try to keep it in the center of the rail so that you can actually take a razor blade. Once you pull the tape off, you just have a little lip. You just run over it with the razor blade. Once you do the other side, you just let it overlap, and you can just work it with a razor blade. Very simple, very easy. So there's not a lot of sanding to be done if you get that right, and then you have a perfect seam coming along the center of the board. So it's not an eye catcher, if you know what I mean, because everybody always looks to see, you know, where you've done a mistake. I'm just going to crunch up some balls of tape. Just place them every 10 centimeters so there's no possibility of the tape actually getting stuck, and then it'll still run onto the board. You want to try and keep the tape away by just placing some little crunched up balls and taping them to the inside so that I don't make a mistake later on. That way you just prevent yourself a whole lot of trouble. Okay, let's turn the board around again and make sure when you place it onto the stand that you don't, we'll put it this way, that the stand is in the center of the board, not obstructing our drip edge. Now I'm going to seal off the inside. You can do this two ways. You can actually take a sellotape see-through and stick it on flat, or you can seal it by sticking tape onto the inside. I prefer it this way. Do it this way. I've just been doing this. I've always been doing this, so I just prefer it. I use this little tool just to make sure that I get into the edges, taping the edges down completely, because those are actually the areas where you might have some resin flowing in. On the long straights, you don't really have a problem. Only the edges every now and then give up. So with this little tool, I really make sure that I massage the tape into the corners so that I don't have an issue somewhere down the line. So I've mixed some resin. It's about 630 grams, and it should be fine just to do the one side. I've got a little popsicle stick here just to make sure that my corners on the fin plug are always taped down. Just going to put that here in case I need it. So all you really need for this job is a paintbrush. So here we go. Now I've spread the resin over the entire board. And now very gently, not using a lot of pressure on the brush, just spreading it from the front to the back to get the resin to have an even layer across the entire board. So I finished applying the hot coat. I'm just going to leave it like this to cure. Well, not cure, just to harden about 1 hour or 2 hours. And then we're going to remove the drip edge. We're going to try and have the resin a little bit soft so we can just pull the drip edge off. As you can see, the drip edge is working perfectly. Everything is just running down, dripping on the floor where it's supposed to be. So we're going to get back to this in about 1 hour to 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours and the resin is still soft, hasn't gone hard yet, and it's just slightly tacky, not really. But now's the time when we can pull off the tape line or drip line without actually causing any problems with the so-called set, not cured, set resin. I'm going to remove the tape on the fin box, although I still have a gap on this side here between the actual fiberglass on the board and the fin box, but I'm going to fill that gap at a later stage. So on the fin box it leaves a little edge which can be perfectly flattened with the sanding machine. Now I'm going to let this dry or cure just a little bit longer, because the last thing you want is when you flip the board and you start working on the other side, that the resin hasn't cured properly and the stand leaves a mark there where the board rested, and it literally just messes up your freshly painted hot coat. Yes, and we've all been there and we've done that. Now, hot coating a board is a fairly simple process. You mix some resin and you basically paint it onto the board. So make sure that you paint the entire board with kind of a thick layer, and then taking it from side to side and from the front to the back. Making sure in the last steps you don't push too hard on your brush, but whatever excess you got in front of the brush, let it run off the rails. So if you have excess going from side to side, let it run off the rails. You actually want to have a little bit of a thicker resin area coming off, because what's going to happen while it cures, it's just going to get thinner because it's dripping. So you actually want to have a nice line or a nice layer of resin on the side. So when you pull your tape off, that you actually have a nice edge. You don't want to be with a situation where it gets so thin that you can actually see the bottom of the board again. You need to have enough resin on the sides. So once you've actually done the entire top of the board, concentrate on your last runs and make sure that all the edges and the tape line actually has enough resin, and then you let it cure. So I hope these tips help you with building your own board. So that's it from me this week, guys. Thanks for watching. Click that notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.